And I mean, if someone told me this is your mate and you're supposed to be with him, I would be like, fuck no. I would be a rebel. I would rebel as a result. Hi everyone, Nina here and Anya with me as usual.
Hey!
Welcome to the More Than Fiction podcast. As you probably know, today we'll be talking about A Court of Wings and Ruin. A disclaimer, this is a spoiler warning for, this entire book and the previous two books, but we'll try not to talk about the other ones, the other two. Our opinions are our own. You don't have to agree with them, but please stay respectful. So we have a little bit of an opinion about this book that we would like to just in general discuss first. I think this is the worst book of the series so far. I did not like it. I felt like there was a lot of, discussion about the war, and I felt like at the end, it fell short and it was just not, it didn't do anything for me. There were a lot of just plot twists that I didn't like for the sake of the plot. Sometimes it felt like, I also didn't like Rhysand as much in this book. I liked him in the second one, but here it just felt like him and Feyre weren't two separate people. It felt like they were one person. But we'll discuss more of that later. Their relationship also seemed very too perfect for me, I suppose. I wasn't invested anymore. The sex scenes I also didn't like as much. I didn't feel the chemistry there. Like I said, it was just too much with the whole mate situation. My mate that, too much repetition. This book could have been a lot shorter, in my opinion. And I just really didn't like it. I don't know. I like the first two way better, way more.
So you were kind of underwhelmed, I guess, by what was promised to you?
Yes.
Okay, that's an interesting opinion, because I would still say that the very first book of the series, A Court of Thorns and Roses, is still my least favorite one, because, what I go for in books is I want to have some plot and I want to have some interesting setting and I want to really learn a lot about this world that I'm in. And that was so lacking in book one that I was way more entertained, at least by book three, than I was in book one. Was I always happy by what all of the characters were doing? Absolutely not. Was the last battle as epic and incredible as it could have been? No, it wasn't. But I still sort of enjoyed myself. It was a book and I had a good time, so that's what I will say. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. So I guess we can just start off by emphasizing, I suppose, that Feyre is a high lady now, and she infiltrated the Spring Court, which is interesting. And what do you think about that whole little sticky situation?
I don't know how popular of an opinion that is. And I get that, it's kind of, it obviously is bad of Feyre to go and sabotage and cause mayhem and whatnot, but I was kind of enjoying her causing all this mayhem. At least it was fun, and as all of us know, Tamlin truly pissed me off in the last book that we've discussed, so, I was kind of feeling it. I was kind of hoping that she'll get her revenge, and that's okay, fine, it's not always good to get your revenge, but I was kind of, in the beginning, I was kind of on board. It was fun, especially, sticking it to Iante, how, she absolutely got revenge on her, and I feel like that was deserved and appropriate.
Okay. I, for one, liked certain moments of this whole thing too. I liked Feyre as this little spy, I think those kind of stories are always interesting. I really liked that one moment. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but they were on a stage or something. I don't even know. I know a lot of people were gathered, and Iante, she was speaking about the goddess or whatever, and she was like, that the light will now shine upon her. And Feyre kind of did something. She moved something so that the light actually illuminated her. So everyone then bowed to Feyre, and Lucian like also played his part in that. He kind of also bowed to her or something, and everyone followed along. Tamlin was super shocked. Iante was so funny. I mean, she was funny in that moment because she's like, she had her eyes closed and she thought that everyone was like all about her. But no, it was all about Feyre. And that was so funny to me. I love that moment. That was a really, really good one. And there were also other parts where it was kind of good, and you know how Feyre was trying to trick everyone and stuff. You know, I'm not a complete like Feyre fan and a complete Tamlin hater, as everyone already knows. So, you know, I guess I understand her wanting to get revenge, but I don't still see what revenge is there really to get for communication issues between partners, and then the consequences that come along with that. I get, okay, fine, like if you want to get revenge, okay, fine, but it's not just Tamlin you're hurting, it's kind of like everyone else. And I know Lucian, for example, also wasn't a really good friend to Feyre all the time, definitely, but also, you know, like manipulating him like that. And for example, Alice, you know, she didn't want to tell Alice about her plan. She didn't even want to warn her. If Alice wouldn't have found out, wouldn't have seen through her, Alice is the one that confronts her, if you remember, and she's the one like, I know what you're up to, like I can see it. And that's when Feyre tells her. And even once Alice confronts her, she still wouldn't tell her. And I'm like, girl, you know, you really want Alice to suffer some consequences at her two nephews and all the innocent people. It's like she was so consumed by all of this, she didn't think about other people. And I didn't like that, because it's not just the fact that I didn't like that. I feel like if she was written differently, I would have. But in some aspects, Feyre felt very cocky about the way she went about it. You know, like her thought process was like, I'm super badass, I'm like that. And I don't know, I didn't kind of dig that. It felt a bit too much for me, in the sense, you're not just, you know, screwing with Tamlin, you're screwing with everyone, with people who don't deserve this. So I kind of rolled my eyes a lot of the times, and I was just like, this isn't that appealing to me. If she was at least a little bit more, if she was more humble about it, I guess, you know? And in her thought process, you could notice that it isn't really just about helping strategically, it really is about revenge. And that's what annoyed me and frustrated me. It was fun to read the times, but most of the times I was over it a bit. I didn't like it as much. But everything with Iante screwing with her, I did like. But just when I thought about the sentries and the guards that lived there and worked there, and Alice, for example, I didn't like that. And even Alice told her, just please leave me out of it. And I was like, the fact that she has to tell you that and ask you that, it's kind of telling, isn't it? It's kind of sad.
Yeah, so Alice definitely like was not at fault for anything, so I agree with you there. However, I do think that we should not leave out the fact that Feyre is not only taking revenge for the fact that Tamlin is sort of bad at communicating, she's taking that revenge for bringing a literal evil villain into their land and collaborating with him. And all in an effort to retrieve Feyre as if she's like some sort of object. So I can see why that would really piss her off, because that's not like a little miscommunication issue. That's putting your entire court at risk, as well as the entire continent at risk, by working with this super evil dude. Sure, Tamlin had like a super secret plan to like actually sabotage that, but from the surface, you know, if we can say that like since Rice only put this like very like evil front as a surface, so we shouldn't like judge other characters for judging simply that surface, then I don't think like Feyre and Rysand should be judged for thinking that Tamlin like is actually collaborating with Hybern, because he's sort of doing the same thing. So right, they couldn't have known that the same way the rest of the characters couldn't have known previously that there's something more to Rysand. So yeah, I kind of saw that from a little bit of that perspective. And also, like, absolutely, like, the writing over there on this part is so cheesy. Like, yeah, her thought process is absolutely way too cheesy. But I kind of decided to turn my brain off a little bit and enjoy how cheesy it is and just like go for it. Because that was just like more fun for me.
Yeah, I understand that. I can see that that was more fun for you, but I just don't like self-presumptuous people and as a result characters. And reading that for so long, it was like 100 pages at least. I couldn't relate to that at all, and I just kept rolling my eyes. And what I'm trying to say here, she didn't seem cool to me or badass. She just seemed like annoying and bratty. You know, we all have different interpretations, and you can definitely interpret her that way. But my interpretation, I feel like, also kind of makes sense. And as for, yeah, I get that she wanted just, I mean, that's her argument about Hybern taking over and all of that. Okay, yeah, that is fair. But at the same time, it turned out that that wasn't really the case. Sure, you can't blame her for not knowing that and for thinking Tamlin was really just, too delusional or whatever. And he wanted, I mean, in his head, like I said, in the previous episodes, in his head, he wanted to help her. And it didn't help him that everyone kept kind of like enabling him in the sense, no one was straight up with him. And I'm not talking about Feyre here, but like about Lucien as his friend. He could have stuck up a little bit more and be a little bit more real with him, especially since he's a grown-ass man capable of protecting himself in case Tamlin, explodes or something. Also, Alice, she didn't tell anyone that Feyre left of her own free will. Everyone, that's another thing that he thought that she actually was kidnapped. And Lucien found the stupid ring that she obviously left there because she didn't want anything to do with Tamlin anymore. And yet he hid it. He didn't tell him. It's like everyone enabling his behavior. And yet her hate should be just for him instead of, like, for example, also Lucien. And, what I'm trying to say here is that at the end, it turned out that it wasn't as black and white, that Tamlin kind of had a plan. And regardless if she didn't know that, eventually she did find that out. And I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, but I guess it's important for my point. She found that out and she had like a little bit of thought there about regrets. She was regretful for a second there, and then Rhys came into her thoughts too, and he was like, no, don't worry, you don't have anything to feel sorry for. And I was just like, but she does. And I just wish she would have a little bit more self-reflection, because I feel like every mistake that she does is swept under the rug, while when some other characters make mistakes, they're emphasized a lot, too much, to the point that it's too much. But when she does it, let's not talk about it. And it's the same when she had like the Ouroboros thing. That was like a real great opportunity for her when she looked in that mirror and she saw her bad reflection staring back. That was a good opportunity for the writer to give Feyre a moment to self-reflect and to show us as readers that she kind of grew and that she understands her mistakes too. Because no one is perfect at the end of the day. And yet Sarah J. Maas decided to skip that part and just tell us that Feyre learned a lot from it and that she now understands it and that she forgives herself. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but what did you see? What did you understand? Did you learn anything really? It's not enough for her to just say that. And yeah, that's what I missed, a bit of self-reflection from Feyre. And in those moments, that's why it felt even more self-presumptuous what she was doing in that court, regardless of her reasons. Just in general, it just wasn't a good look for her, in my opinion.
Right. I don't disagree with you here on the fact that we've seen Feyre really like fuck up over and over again and not really feel the consequences for it, or I guess all the characters just letting her slide for the sort of mistakes that, other characters would get shit for. So I don't disagree with you there, and we'll get to those parts, I think, later. So I do see that, right, that she obviously had a hand in how the Spring Court turned out. I don't disagree with you there. However, if I really look back and analyze what Feyre has actually done as her grand evil, I guess, plan to bring the court down, she had this one argument with Tamlin where she provoked him, but a little bit, in a way that would not provoke anyone who's emotionally stable to get attacked by him. And that worked. That's how she got sympathy from the sentries. And then at the border, where she went with like the evil guys to the border, her plan was to get attacked by the evil guys so that she can later run away. And regardless of that plan, because she wanted to just pretend to be attacked, like they attacked her anyway. So at the end of the day, like with all her like grand scheming and planning, I'm pretty sure most of the things would have turned out the way that they did, regardless of all the machinations. Like maybe Ianthe would have been let off scot-free. So like I'm glad that Feyre was there to kick her ass. But regarding Tamlin, like I'm pretty sure he was already like losing the respect of the centrist with like bringing Hybern in. And she would have been beaten up and like almost murdered by those evil twins either way. So like I sort of see, yeah, it was not a good deed to like go and scheme and plan and be like this spy. However, did she even like do that much? I feel like she didn't even do that much.
I mean, the way the author presents it to us is like that she did, you know, and that's how I read it, at least at the time. There's no excuse for Tamlin's explosion. That was all him. And yeah, she just decided not to shield herself, which is fair enough, I guess. I mean, she could have, if she was human, that would have just, you know, hit her hard. So that's true. But there was like another thing that she kind of manipulated a sentry. Ianthe did something bad. I don't remember what she did. What was it? I don't remember what she did. Do you remember? And then kind of Feyre loosed his tongue and the guy who got whipped, you know? Which was also bad. Like, Tamlin, he's the type of guy that he just sticks to these rules that he has inside of his head. He's very traditional and he just doesn't want to appear weak. And I think there's a lot of psychology around that too, in the sense of how he was brought up and his father and his family. So there's a lot there to unravel, I feel like, in the future, perhaps in a book. But I'm not going to go into that now. So yeah, he just wants everyone to look at him as powerful. And that's, if he said no, that he felt like he would lose control over people. He doesn't see that that's not the case. That if you want people to respect you, you have to do what's right? But in his head, like, no, like, I have to show power, which is, of course, wrong, a mindset that's wrong. But, you know, Feyre, what she did here, actually, as I understood, that sentry, when Ianthe did what she did, was actually sleeping. And yeah, it is true that Ianthe was the one that did the deed, but like the sentry didn't actually see it. He was sleeping and Feyre planted that into his mind and then she loosened up his tongue so that he would say. So yeah, essentially it was Tamlin's decision to whip him, but that wouldn't have happened if Feyre didn't plant something in his head, you know? I actually have it written here, the exact sentence of how she said it. Just a second. I made my move. Slid my power into the bound sentry's mind and freed the memory I'd coiled up tightly in his head. Freed his tongue too. So, you know, there were people I read online that were saying that she didn't plant the memory, that she just freed his tongue. But here it precisely says that she freed the memory she coiled up tightly in his head. You know, so that to me says that she put it there.
Wait, I am not interpreting this scene in the same way you are.
Really?
I actually thought that she coiled up. I think she hid that memory from him so that the sentry couldn't remember the reality of what happened. And
but what's the point of that?
So that he wouldn't remember as he was, you know, being accused. And then she like magically made him remember again. I thought that it was actually like a real memory. She just suppressed it for a time and then like made it come back.
But that doesn't make sense.
Which one of us is right.
But that doesn't make sense because like, why would she suppress something that she wanted to come out anyway? I mean, if he saw Ianthe doing that, it's good for her, right? If he saw that with his own two eyes, he would have said something. So why would she just, you know, hide that memory so that she can bring it up later?
Because she first needed him to get accused, right? So it would like come to that moment where he's wrongfully being punished. And then...
Oh, he would have gotten accused probably anyway. I mean, Ianthe wanted to accuse someone. And he was there.
Yeah. I don't know, for some reason I thought that like she needed to like have that moment where he's not remembering it and then suddenly he remembers it. I don't know.
I get that. I get that. I mean, I feel like a lot of people think that, but I don't know. This is just like, if I really focus on these words, I feel like the memory I'd coiled up tightly in his head and freed his tongue too. You know? I don't know. That's just my interpretation. And that's another thing that I kind of, a little bit judged her for, I guess. I didn't judge her for Ianti. Like, Ianti is just pure evil. She just really wants to rule the world. I felt like also another thing that I found, again, a little unrealistic was how she defeated the twins. I mean, we're talking about I don't know how old they were, but I assume they're over 500 years old. They're generals or whatever, they've been through wars and battles, and yet she defeated them. That's another thing that I found a little bit unrealistic. And again, I rolled my eyes a bit when I read that. I mean, I was happy that she did. They were awful and evil, and I was happy that she did. But when I thought over it, I was like, is that really like, no, I don't know. I don't think that's how it should have gone. I mean, I'm glad it did. I'm glad she, saved Lucien and herself and ran.
True. Yeah, and then they ran away. Finally.
Yeah. And what about Lucien? What did you think about him? What's your opinion of him?
I will agree with you here that he really should have stuck up for Feyre way more, because he was her friend too, and all that time he could have, done something about the way Tamlin is treating her, and he did nothing. And like, on one hand, I'm thinking, like, what kind of person is Tamlin that even like people closest to him are afraid to speak to him openly? But on the other hand, I'm thinking, if you're truly friends with Feyre, if you want the best for that girl, you should have done something. Like, you had like a chance to do something and you didn't. So I'm not a big fan of Lucien. I don't think he was that good of a friend like throughout all those books. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Lucien, he's the type of character that I have such mixed feelings about, and that I can't really, I don't know. I understand that he has a strong sense of loyalty towards Tamlin, after everything that happened to him. His father killed his girlfriend and he ran away, and Tamlin took him in. He killed one of his brothers that was after him. He made him part of his court, and I understand that they became friends. But yeah, at the same time, what friendship to me is that honesty, that you're honest with your friends and that you tell them when they're wrong. And that's why I kind of like also didn't like him in that sense. But at the same time, I also didn't really dislike him that much. Again, it's a very tricky situation with Lucien for me. I also felt kind of bad for him when he got to the night court, skipping ahead a little bit, but still.
Yeah.
And he got to the night court, and of course he was completely shocked when he saw that, it's not like an underground cave. And he was like all dirty and stuff. And then Feyre and Rhysand, they immediately just left and they had sex. And Lucien, I don't know who took him later on, but someone, I assume they took him to that house. What's it called?
The House of Wind, right?
The House of Wind, yeah. They took him there, and I remember when Feyre went to visit him, he was still wearing the same clothes. Like, no one even gave him new clothing. And I was like, oh, poor guy. No one even thought of him. And I don't know, I felt bad for him, kind of. He left Tamlin, and he just left his whole life behind, and I kind of felt for him. But yeah, it's a tricky situation with Lucien, for sure. He did help her. Like, they went through the autumn court, and oh my gosh, I was so anxious when his brothers found them. And that's like whole battle on the ice. I could like see that as a movie in my head. I like that a lot. That battle cool. On the ice. That was really cool, right? And like him firing stuff at them, and she's trying to freeze the ground again, and it was super, super cool. And when Azriel and Cassian came to the rescue, that was also super hot and so great. And when they made the reveal that she's a high lady, when Aerys just froze and he was completely shocked, everyone was. That was a good reveal. That was like a movie scene in my head, and I loved it.
Yeah, I love that she like finally got to reveal who she actually is now. So that was awesome.
And then going through the, autumn court and winter court, that we got a little bit of that too in, just kind of like a little bit of a glimpse. That was also pretty interesting.
True. Yeah, I'm happy to have finally received some of that, because I just would love to get more of all of the courts. I was really interested to get some of it, but yeah, we ended up back at the Night Court in Valaris and finally reunited Rysand and Feyre, and also finally saw her sisters.
Oh my god. Yeah, that was interesting. I was waiting for that, like I said in the previous episode. I was really interested how they would cope with their, newfound home or whatever. I mean, not really a home for them, but still. And the change, they're now Fae, and they really didn't want to be Fae. They hated the Fae, so that's a big change. And yeah, I mean, I felt for Elain. I read online again how people really dislike her in general and just how, poor Elain. But I don't know. I mean, I get it. Like, she was supposed to marry this guy she thought she was in love with. She had her whole life planned out and this, like, calm little existence that she wants for herself. And now all of that was just taken away, in a sense. So I completely understood her depression and her inability to kind of cope. It was a completely normal response to me, and I didn't dislike her for it or find her boring. I actually understood her. But again, it's that same problem, you get Feyre's perspective, you never get others' perspective. So it's easy to understand Feyre when she goes through her depression and when she's mean to everyone around her. But when it comes to other characters, like Elain, for example, everyone's just like, oh, she's boring, But, I mean, come on, the poor girl, she's gone through a lot. Give her a break.
I'm surprised to hear that apparently many people hate her. I don't see the reason for that. I do enjoy her as a character a lot. And yeah, I did not feel any sort of negative feelings towards her in this book at all. Quite on the contrary, I was sort of pissed off at everyone else and their treatment of Elain, especially at the beginning, because obviously that was really traumatic for her. And she obviously couldn't cope for quite a while with what had happened to her. But also, wasn't it obvious that there was more behind her condition than just that? To us as readers, I felt like it was obvious that there was something more going on. However, I feel like from the rest of the characters, just some sort of expectation that Elain is this weak girl, that she's the weak one. So obviously she's just got broken by the cauldron. And nobody really thought further than that. And I felt like that was such a disservice towards her, because when everyone figured out that something was off with Nesta, everyone immediately jumped to the conclusion that, well, obviously she's strong, she's a badass, she went into the cauldron and got some superpowers. And then Elain went to the exact same cauldron in the exact same moment with the exact same condition, but obviously she's not going to get any powers. She's weak. Obviously, she's just rambling nonsense because it broke her. And I was just over there why is it so hard to believe that maybe she also got the powers that Nesta did? Or different sorts of powers?
Yeah, I agree. I hate how presumptuous they are in regards to Elain and judgy, and just treat her as this fragile little flower. I feel like they don't give her even the chance to show her strength. They just assume, and they don't allow her to be brave. They shield her all the time. So how can you get anything more out of her then? And as a reader, I was annoyed by the others. Yeah, I wasn't annoyed by Elain. I didn't find her boring. I felt like the others don't give her the chance to be interesting, in a sense. Right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So, and also, I really like characters that are, that appear to be fragile and that they appear very emotional. And then, but they're not. Actually, there's strength in being emotional and perhaps physically a little bit weaker, more fragile. But all of that limitations, and you still persevere, you still fight, you still get through it. That's what makes you strong. And Elain, essentially, she went through it. She faced her fiancé. He was awful to her. She cried, she was sad, but she got over it. And she actually got through it and tried to connect with the inner circle. She befriended those two girls, the shadow girls. I don't know what they are. And that's strength. For example, everyone says Nesta is strong, but I don't think it's strong that you're a bitch to everyone and guard yourself. I actually think that's weak. I think it's strong that you face your emotions, you face what you've gone through, and you're still nice to everyone. That's difficult.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
not easy. It's easy to be a bitch and to be mean. And I don't like when authors try to portray characters that are bitchy as strong. You know, like, I don't know. So I'm not saying I don't like Nesta. I also think she's interesting in a different sense. But when we get everything from Feyre's point of view, it sometimes just seems like she sees Elain as the weak one and Nesta is strong one, and then that's repeated so many times that it gets that I just don't understand. It gets annoying, frustrating for me to read that.
Sort of, yeah. I don't think that Nesta was necessarily always portrayed as likable, or that we were meant to think of her as likable and strong and badass. I definitely think there were, like, throughout all the books, lots of moments where Nesta was just insufferable. However, that made her for an interesting character with a lot of room for growth. But yeah, you get this feeling that because of how she carries herself and the way she processes or doesn't process her emotions, everyone else assumes that she is a strong badass. But
Exactly.
yeah, and then topped Elain, and I was not happy with that.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Yeah, exactly. And I'm excited about Elaine's book, and I think she's going to surprise a lot of people. And I really hope Sarah J. Maas handles her story well, because I think that her book can potentially be even the best one because she can really surprise people. Like I said, a lot of people find her boring, and I'm like, well, I don't agree. I don't agree at all. And yeah. What else is there to say in this reunion? Was there anything mentioned important?
Yeah, so we got the sisters, we got them reunited, we got the weird Lucian Elaine tradition.
Oh no. That was so cringe. That was so cringe to me, by the way. If we can focus a little bit on the Lucian and Elaine situation. I mean, I thought Lucian shouldn't even be in that house, if I'm honest. I mean, Elaine went through a big change. Yeah. She was still in love with a human guy. Like, but I feel like he still did kind of give her space. I mean, he wasn't very pushy. He tried to be gentle. But yeah, it was hard to read. It was hard to read for sure. And I think that's another reason why people kind of dislike Elaine. They kind of think that she should have given Lucian more of a chance or something. I don't know. And maybe in further books, maybe. But at this point, I don't think so. Like, I completely understand her reaction. And I mean, if someone told me this is your mate and you're supposed to be with him, I would be like, fuck no. I would be a rebel. I would rebel as a result. If someone told me, like, you're meant to be together, I would be like, no, hell no. I don't want to,
Yeah, absolutely. She's a human. I mean, now she's been turned into Fae, but she spent her life as a human. She has a fiance. She is not from a world where a mate is a concept that she's even cares about and is familiar with. And then, it's not like they got to know each other and went through all those moments together and then attraction developed. No, she went through a traumatic experience, her body turning into a literal different body against her will. And then this dude just comes out and he's like, you're my mate. We're gonna be together. Of course, she's gonna be like, fuck off.
Yeah.
What? It's was not a good situation. And obviously, she'd be wary of him after that.
Yeah, true. But I mean, I have to give Lucian a little bit of credit. He didn't really, poke. He was trying to keep his distance. So yeah, and then there was this one time when they were trying to figure out if something is wrong with her. They brought a physician, and the physician said, maybe let her mate talk to her. They have a connection. And he sat down with her and they talked, and he was being nice and everything, and he was cute. I feel like Lucian's story could have been also more interesting. I feel like it could have been done more with it, but it was just I don't know. I didn't care much. But yeah, he was nice. He was cute. He wasn't annoying me, I guess.
Oh, true. Yeah, I absolutely respect that he was not pushing Elaine at all, and he was giving her space. And obviously, with being made, you, I guess, get those sort of instincts to just go and fight and protect. And he was fighting that with his rationality to give her that space. So I do appreciate Lucian in that sense. However, I'm also not mad at Elain for like needing that space. I think
Yeah,
that was
of
also
course.
her. Yeah, basically, yeah. I like her.
I agree. And then Nesta, like how protective she is of her and everything. I mean, very cute, but I always, whenever I read that, I'm like, where is that same protection for Farah? Like, why not protect her? Why, treat her like she's your, I don't know, cousin from far, far away. It's weird. It's so weird. And Farah's even younger, like, so
True.
that's
Yeah.
weird. And how Nesta was like towards Lucian, she's like an animal. She was like, stay away from her, stay away from her. That was also like kind of funny. And I was like, okay, maybe a little too much. He's not gonna do anything at first, fine. But eventually you could see that he wasn't really gonna do anything.
True.
So yeah. So let's go to the night court situation. I suppose I'm talking about this right now because I'm remembering how Moore was sad when Rhysand, made that a deal with her dad.
Yeah.
So he basically said that he would allow him to come into Valaris, and he made like a deal with Eris too, and it was just all over the place. And Moore felt betrayed because she felt like Valaris was her safe haven, and she thought that it would pretty much be destroyed because of her dad, because like a destroyer pretty much. So, and I kind of understood her. I wish Rhys gave her a heads up, like just
Absolutely.
a heads up. What you're about to do? That was not cool, and I was really happy because sometimes I feel like Rhys and Farah don't get enough critique, when they do things that are not okay. And I was glad that once they got back from the nightmare court, whatever, that's Moore and Cassian, they actually told him how wrong that was. And I was so happy she was legit angry at him and kind of held him accountable for what he did or didn't tell her. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. That was like one of the decisions by Rhysand that like really pissed me off. Like there were like moments in this book where he just went ahead and did something and didn't tell anyone. Even in previous books, like he will just have a plan and then tell everyone after the fact what it actually was, and then everyone's just like, why couldn't we have just known this, right? So
exactly. So that's and I want to comment on a thought I had earlier. I think I said at the beginning of this episode how I think that Rhysand became Mr. Perfect. I don't think that's like in general that he became Mr. Perfect, because he obviously still made mistakes. What I'm trying to say here is that since we get everything from Pear's perspective, he was still kind of Mr. Perfect to her. So we just kind of got that point of view, and it read like he was still perfect regardless of the mistakes he made. And there were no real consequences for, like, not at least long term, not, because it's from Pear's point of view, I feel like people just kind of sweep it under the rug, and I kind of don't. So in my head, he wasn't Mr. Perfect, but he was portrayed as, from Farah's perspective or from, Sarah J. Maas's perspective, and I didn't appreciate that. But yeah.
Yeah, like objectively, if you look at his actions, like, for example, when they were protecting this summer court and he went out onto like that boat with Hybern on it without telling anyone what he's doing.
Right.
Like Feyre only found out because like she went into his mind. And that was like one of those decisions where like he's putting himself in danger, he's putting the entire court in danger. He could have communicated, but like part of him just like wants to be that guy who, just like saves everyone and sacrifices everything and is not letting anyone else in. But that instead, that could lead to you endangering everyone even more because like no one knows what's going on. It would have been better if you communicated first. So there were moments that I'm objectively looking at, Rhysand kind of screwed up there, but because we're getting everything from Feyre's perspective, she's like way easier on him. And of course, like they like literally share minds, so it's pretty easy to understand someone who you could like literally read a mind of.
That's true.
Yeah, so like it's not like I expected them to have like a conflict based on miscommunication, but like both Rhysand and Feyre in this book just like got away with doing stupid things that they did not get critiqued enough for. I'm not going to skip ahead to what happens later because there's a lot to get through, but at the end of the book, that's basically what pissed me off about Feyre the most.
Yeah, I actually wanted to say when you said about reading minds and it's easier for them to understand each other, I just wanted to give a little bit of comment there. I feel like I sometimes wish they couldn't read each other's mind because their relationship would be more real if they couldn't. They would actually have to go through struggles that that people generally tend to go through when they're in a new relationship. You know what I mean? And that's why their relationship sometimes felt too perfect because there were no actual arguments between them. They understood each other immediately. And I'm not saying that I want them to argue, but like a debate that's a bit more heated, I suppose, here and there wouldn't hurt. Those are always also interesting for me to read because like the relationship grows when you go through those challenges and when you face them head on and persevere. And, even when you see the reality, the ugly reality of a person, because like no one is perfect. So when you still see the ugly reality of someone and you still decide to be with them despite acknowledging that and seeing that, that's when it's real to me. And here it felt sometimes like they didn't acknowledge it. They understood each other so well that there was no acknowledgement. It was just like, okay, I understand. And I don't know. I sometimes wish they would be like, I don't understand, but I accept you anyway. You know what I mean? So in that sense, I felt like their relationship was too perfect and therefore not that interesting to me. It wasn't interesting to read about them in this book to me at all. And that saddened me because I like them in book 2 a lot together.
Interesting. I mean, I don't think that a relationship needs to be realistic. Like, a relationship doesn't need to be like a representation of a normal human sort of new relationship to be interesting to me. So obviously their relationship is different than it would have been if there were just like, I don't know, two normal people like meeting on planet Earth. But that like didn't make the relationship less interesting. It was just different because they had like this mind communication thing, they're mates. So of course it's going to be different. I was not like really annoyed by that, I guess. One thing about like this mind reading that sort of annoyed me was like how many times the mind reading was described as he essentially caressed my wall with his claws when talking about like trying to get into her mind. I was like, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be romantic, but like I'm like creeped out a bit.
Yeah, exactly. I completely understand your point of view. That's all personal taste. I feel like I see people on the internet, they worship, Rhysand and Feyre's relationship. Mm-hmm. So I know that, I'm probably in the minority where I think that they're not interesting. But yeah, that's just my point of view. I can see how, you could think differently. So that's fine. I think it just has to do with personal tastes and what you expect in a book when you read it, like what kind of a relationship makes you invested to read, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And this just isn't my type of jam. For example, I'm not going to spoil anything, don't worry guys, but like in the case of Nesta and Cassian, in their book, I'm not spoiling anything. This is just like a general thing that I want to say. They couldn't read each other's minds and it was more interesting to me. And, but I'm not going to say more than that. The mind thing was too much at times. But I want to actually briefly discuss Eris a little bit because I think Eris is another character that will have like an interesting story ahead because it seems from what we've read in this book that there's more to him.
Honestly, like I kind of see that what happened all those 500 years ago, I think from his perspective, he thought that he was doing the right thing and he wasn't actually trying to be evil. So at the end of the day, like, okay, like I believe him, it's fine, but I'm also like not that interested in him as a character or in his story.
Yeah,
I guess.
Me neither. I'm not interested in him as a character, but I can see that Sarah J. Maas is kind of giving us these little breadcrumbs about him, about the fact that there is more to him. He pretty much says that what happened with Lucian wasn't exactly what we think it is, and he says the same thing about Mor, that, yeah, sure, he did leave her there, but he says that Moore knows more about the story and that she should be the one to tell it. I don't think that it's just his perspective. I legit think he did something good. I think that the only way to save Moore was for him to leave her there. You know, that kind of a thing.
Probably, yeah.
But let's not, talk too much about him. I don't like him either that much. I mean, I don't care. I don't care. Anyways, so sorry for everyone who's listening that if you do care a lot about Eris, but yeah, we just don't, sadly. Maybe we will in the future, you never know. So anyways, Cassian's and Nesta's relationship was kind of fun to read in this book to me. They always, kind of have these little fights, right? They like snap at each other and she's very cool towards him and it's kind of obvious that there's something between them, but neither of them wants to actually do anything about it or address it or anything. So that was kind of funny for me to read and kind of interesting. I would actually prefer to read about them sometimes more than what we got, I suppose.
I can see that, yeah. We did get a lot of hints, Nesta and Cassian, in this book. I did have the same problem with it as I did with a lot of things happening from Feyre's point of view, because all of these little relationship hints for Asriel and Moore, for example, for Nesta and Cassian, are always happening from Feyre's perspective, and I just felt like it happened so often that Feyre just seemed like an extremely nosy person. Like, she was just like needed to know the tea about everyone in her friend group.
The nosy neighbor, seriously.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. I mean, I actually have to talk about this right now. I didn't get that vibe too much from Cassian and Nesta because I don't know, maybe it's just my memory lying right now, but I felt it was more emphasized with Moore and Asriel. Oh, or maybe it wasn't that, but maybe because it's a different situation with Moore and Asriel. With Nesta and Cassian, they like fight and they bicker. But with Moore and Asriel, it's like Asriel keeps staring at Moore longingly and Moore, ignores it and she sleeps around in order to avoid the issue. It's such a weird situationship that isn't compelling to me. It isn't attractive to me. It isn't sexy. It's just awkward and cringeworthy for me. Like, Asriel, as a result, ends up looking like a creep, like a creep that stares at Moore all the time. And I'm gonna touch upon another thing that we also read in this book, so it makes sense. Moore turns out she's a lesbian. She can sleep with men and with women. I mean, both, but like she emotionally connects with women. And oh my gosh, 500 years has passed and she never once told this Asriel. I mean, and he keeps pining after her. And now she knows Feyre for what, like a year now? And she goes and tells her. And she never tells, not just, okay, fine, if she doesn't want to face Asriel. I mean, no, it's not fine, but okay. Like Cassian or Amren or Rhysand, like her family, they wouldn't tell anyone. Like, at least one of them she could confide in, and yet she doesn't. And she does to Feyre. That doesn't make much sense to me. And I feel bad for Asriel because, like, he does turn out, he is kind of like a bit creepy from Feyre's point of view when we read it. But, I mean, poor guy, like, it's cruel to do this to him, in my opinion. It's just cruel.
Right. Let's talk about this whole situation because I have a lot of thoughts about both Feyre and Moore in that moment. We're just skipping ahead now to, like, this whole fight that happened between them. Right, so we first see Feyre basically lie to Morrigan to go into the battle to leave her alone because she will definitely stay in a safe spot and not do anything irrational and stupid. So Morrigan believes her, leaves, and of course Feyre just like winnows into like the dangerous forest to talk to our bestie Suriel again. Oh my god. Honestly, not a bad idea, but why don't you talk to your court? Same deal as Rhysand. Like, they just like go into rational decisions before talking to anyone about it. So this situation happened. She gets attacked in the forest. She gets saved. She gets back. But yeah, her life was in danger. She didn't tell anyone what's happening, where she's going. Morrigan, finding out, is legit pissed at her for a legitimate reason, right? Because like if something happened to Feyre, Morgan was supposed to be the one that's with her, so she basically screwed Morgan over. She lied to someone who's supposedly her close friend. She's a high lady. She's supposed to trust her court, and like they can't like overrule her. She's still the one making decisions. So she should have just informed everyone, but she didn't do that. So Morgan had the whole right to be pissed off at her and to tell her why she's pissed off. And what I like really hated about that fight was that Feyre listened to Morgan's legit complaints, and she was like, well, you lied too. Like, as if that's like a good argument to make at that moment. That was so immature. Like, I get she's like 20 and everyone else is 500, but like everyone else acts like they're 20 as well. So like, let's not get into that. So I was so pissed off at Feyre in that moment that instead of just like taking the L and admitting that she was wrong, she decided to bring in a situation that she knows nothing about and that she knows has like zero to do with this situation, and she basically just wanted to hurt Morgan. It wasn't like, you know, she wants her court to work together well, so she doesn't want there to be any drama or resentment, so like let's all talk it out. Like, no, she brought it up in a moment where she could use it to deflect and hurt Morgan, and that was so not okay. And I felt like Morgan had like nothing to apologize for, nothing to sort of redeem in that situation. And yet Morgan went, oh no, you know what? Let me like tell you a secret that I've kept from literally the closest people to me for 500 years to sort of redeem myself for what? So like, I feel like Sabotage Maas like really wanted this dramatic reveal moment in the end of this book. She wanted to like get it to happen in some sort of way, and that's just the best she could come up with. And because it's from Feyre's point of view, she needed Morgan to confess to Feyre. But the way that she orchestrated it just like made both characters look so immature and so frustrating that I just like couldn't deal with it, right? And that's like not even getting into Morgan's perspective. Like, that's just me being pissed off at Feyre, but like we can get into Morgan to like I'll stop for now.
No, I agree. I mean, again, like a lack of self-reflection from Vera that I so desperately need. I mean, we all have like, we've all fought with friends and sometimes we say things we don't mean. That's of course true. But like, this is a character who we just need a little bit of a self-reflection moment. And this could be a good opportunity for her. Like, you know, she fought with a friend. She realized she said something she shouldn't have said. And instead we get an apology from Moore, and she's telling her life story because she feels guilty for something that's not even her fault. And
Absolutely.
it's like Sarah J. Maas, like I'm saying, like she's really trying to show Feyre as like she can do no wrong. But other characters, I mean, even when they're not wrong, they're wrong. You know, like that's what I'm trying to say. And I don't know, it's like sometimes I feel like Sarah J. Maas inserted herself into Feyre. Like she is Feyre. Like, you know, like when you write, you know, you write,
Yeah.
I don't know what you know, and maybe she literally inserted herself into Feyre, and Feyre can do no wrong because she wants to present her. You know, I remember when I once wrote a fan fiction when I was like back in high school, and I inserted myself as the heroine, and I had the same problem because I wanted the heroine to be perfect. I wanted her to be the best. I wanted to show myself to the world like that. You know, that's like high school thinking. I don't know, whatever. It was bad. It was bad. And I feel like she did the same with Feyre in this book, you know? And it was bad, in my opinion. And some people even say that they think that Moore wasn't originally lesbian, that, you know, she kind of needed more representation. And that's why she kind of spun that around and turned her into a lesbian. Like, I don't know if that's true. That's just like, you know, we can, I don't know, think about it. But I don't think that's the case, honestly. But it was still kind of felt out of place a little bit because like I just feel like Moore would have at least told someone else before she told Feyre, at least Asriel. I mean the poor bastard.
Yeah, my view is that whether Sarah J. Maas like came up with that last minute or not, I just don't think there's any storyline that makes more amount of sense than this one does, right? Because I feel like we've spoken about this before, that, possibly the original storyline was that Morgan was actually in love with Asriel, but due to all the horrible shit that she's gone through in her life, she was not ready to get into any sort of relationship or really like face her feelings for 500 years. And in my opinion, had that been the storyline, that doesn't like make it any better. In fact, it makes it less logical, because you still have Morgan, who supposedly like loves Asriel and wants the best for Asriel, acting the way she acts and like not communicating with him for that long. And I'm not saying she should have like jumped into a relationship before she was ready or faced any trauma before she was ready to do so. However, this is someone you supposedly love. That's someone who's like one of your closest friends, if not like you see as someone more. So she really could have taken like 2 seconds out of those 500 years to just say, hey, I currently am not ready for anything. You will have to wait for me. I don't know how long it will take, but right now I'm not ready. That's it. She didn't have to reveal anything. She didn't have to go into any specifics. That would have been it. But she never did it. So having that as a storyline makes even less sense to me than her being queer and not being ready to face that. Because, yeah, her family was horrible. She lost the love of her life because, like, she was in love with this human woman, and then the wall separated them, and that was, like, really sad for me. And also, to your argument that, like, she had this family in Night Court, and they totally would have, like, protected her secret. A few chapters ago, we had Rhysand just fully letting her father go into Velaris. So you know what? Maybe Morgan's judgment was right not to tell him. Because, yeah, Rhysand was actually, like, willing to compromise something like letting him into Velaris if it meant, like, saving the world. So, it could have come out, like, not even on purpose. But, I get why Morgan wouldn't talk about it and would need like however long she needs to talk about it. So like I'm not judging her for coming out on her own terms. However, I am judging her for just like simply not telling Asriel that she's not into him earlier. Because I don't understand why Sarah J. Maas tried to make a point that if she tells Asriel she's not into him, that equals coming out. Like it doesn't have to. Doesn't it?
A good point. That's a good point. Like, yeah, I agree. You can definitely separate the two. I think, yeah, if she's not ready to come out, she's, no one's forcing her, but she could have at least told him, I'm not into you. You're not my type. I don't know, something. Or just not even give him like a reason. Just say, I just don't see you that way. I see you as a friend. And that's it. She doesn't have to elaborate. She doesn't have to say, I'm lesbian, I'm into girls, whatever. Just say, I'm not into you. I'm sorry. That she would have saved him a world of pain.
That's exactly. I do not understand how like sleeping around and like not really like telling anything was a better alternative than simply saying I don't see you that way, because there was absolutely no reason to share anything further until she was ready. Like that should have been reason enough. From what we know about Asriel, he's a respectful enough of a person to accept that as a reason and like not prod further, and that for any reasonable person should be enough. You shouldn't need to explain further that no, I'm just not interested. And in Morgan's mind, like those two were like sort of conflated, that she couldn't just like say that and have that be it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think I don't know. The author just wanted, like you said, this, big revelation, this dramatic kind of a thing, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it still could have been like Moore could have told this to Asriel before, just like I'm not into you, and she could have like Sarah could have spun it around, like regardless of the fact that she told him that he was still in love with her. He couldn't help himself, I guess. Like that, if you really want him to be in love with her, I don't know, like if that's really what you want, fine. But you could have still told him that, and he could have loved her regardless. It would have been his own fault, like to not try to move on, but still. At least, it wouldn't look so bad for Morgan, like, because she really did end up looking a bit cruel to me. And and stupid too. Sorry. And she could have still given this big revelation to Feyre. Like we still could have gotten that if Sarah really wanted it. Like that would make sense. Even yeah, just tell him something. Just that. That's all I want. Like what I'm saying. Like the lack of communication. I hate that. I hate that so much in books. It's just like a plot thing, and I'm not here for it. Sometimes it's necessary, I guess, but in this case, definitely not.
No, yeah, in this book it was just silly because, yeah, you have this group of friends who were supposedly friends for 500 years. It was like really important for Sarah to emphasize how all those characters are, to have this like very, very old friendship. And I feel like she did sort of fail at portraying these characters believable as 500-year-old group of friends who are as close as a family. Because you have all this drama, all this beef that happened 500 years ago. And then, due to the way these books are structured and the point of view that we get, we need to get all the development of this friend group to happen within like relatively like 4 seconds of their lives. And it all needs to happen from the point of view of this 20-year-old who just like showed up. So it ends up being like this traumatic thing happened to Morrigan. She's unable to speak to Asriel about it. We can't get any sort of progress happening on it until like Feyre is here and able to like comment on it and see it. And that's just, I feel like there could have been some better way to like portray these characters than that.
I agree. I don't think she did a good job at like showing their depth that much and their friendship. Like in, you know, she kept repeating how great of a friend group they are and how they're like a found family. She kept repeating it to the point that it got on my nerves. Like I've expressed this before in previous episodes. I don't like it when authors have to repeat something dozens of times. I don't need words. I need actions. You know, like I need to see that. You know, I don't want just like talk. And it doesn't make it real to me at all. And I don't get as invested. I still like the inner circle. I still think they're really cute and fun, charismatic, everything. Yeah, but just like, yeah, that's my gripe. And another thing that I feel like is a lot, I don't know, just bark, no bite when it comes to these villains. I feel like I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit to the last battle because I have to if I want to, you know, discuss this point. For example, the Weaver, the way she died was so underwhelming for me that I almost cried. I mean, she's supposed to be this big ass, like badass villain. You can't like barely anyone escapes her little cottage. And then she comes to fight for them. And what happens is that the king basically walks up to her, snaps her neck, and throws her to the dogs. And that's how she dies. And she's supposed to be a death god. A god of death.
Oh my god.
What the actual fuck? I was so disappointed by that. And it didn't make sense to me. And like, what does it even mean that you're a god of death then? Like, I mean, aren't you supposed to be like invincible? I don't know. It's weird. And I mean, I kind of understood the other guy dying, her brother, the bone carver. I mean, he got killed by the cauldron, and the cauldron, you know, it created this world. So the cauldron is very powerful. So his death kind of makes sense, even though he's also a god of death. So, yeah.
True. Like, what does that mean? What does it all mean? Why does Sarah keep saying that those characters are X, Y, and Z, and then like not explaining what this actually
is? It's so weird. What is it? What is it? I mean, like I said, Morgan, my gift is truth. The god of death, and then you have also Nesta and her weird powers. She is death. Like, what is that? What does it mean? Like, can you show me an example of Nesta's powers, or like, not kill the god of death just like with a snap of your fingers? Like, give me a more meaningful and more like a stronger death, I suppose, if you have to give it. And yeah, and it's the same with the Suriel. I mean, the Suriel, I kind of understand. He's like, he actually grew to like Feyre, so he allowed himself to get trapped pretty much because he liked talking to her. And I like that aspect. I liked that the Suriel was also not just a monster that everyone thought he was. He was actually a lot more. But no one could see past that because of the way he looked. And I was really sad about that. And at that point, I imagined the Suriel as Dobby, the elf, the house elf from Harry Potter. That was my vision of him. And I envisioned him like in those little scrappy clothes, and that's what he wants, the coat. Because Dobby was also like that. He wanted clothing. If you gave him clothing, that meant that you freed him. He was freed because Harry Potter gave him something, and then he was freed from, servery. So
Dobby a sock.
yeah. I mean, oh, so cute. And like when the Suriel died, let me just tell you that I cried so hard. I ugly cried. I mean, I'm such a big animal lover, and the Suriel to me was essentially like an animal in my head, like Dobby, but like an animal. I don't know, just cute, a friend, a dog, little puppy, Dobby elf, whatever, a mix of both. Okay, let's not get into detail. But yeah, so when he died, that was super sad, and I remember he had like a line that he told her that was also really sad. I don't remember it now. Did you mark it or something?
Probably I did. It was something like you were kind to me.
Yeah, that. Oh, I mean, I was just like, that's so cute and so nice and so sad. So that scene touched me. I like the Suriel.
Some of my favorite things about those books are definitely like the creepy, weird mythological creatures. It was a shame that at the end we got like that anticlimactic ending with the Bone Carver and the Weaver dying. I definitely did not enjoy that. However, I like them as characters. I like the Suriel a lot. I like that we got like a little bit of tea that there's cachet somewhere in that world. We'll probably get more of that in next books. So I'm already interested in hearing more about that guy. And also the Briaxis, like the scary entity living under the library. That was like also like one of my favorite parts of the book, because again we like got that this is some sort of evil creature, right? That like I think like Cassian went down there and then like couldn't like talk for like weeks or something. So like we're expecting some sort of like complete monster, and then we meet it and it's just like, yeah, I would just like to chill at the library, but it would be nice to like have a window, look at some clouds. And I'm like, same, relatable. I would love to.
Yeah, I agree. I love the monsters that end up being more, they just perhaps look like monsters, appear as monsters, but there's more to them. So I really like that too. Abraxas, no, not Abraxas, Briaxis, right? Abraxas, I think, is from the Throne of Glass. Similar names. Yeah, I liked him, and I want to see more of him. But in regards to Crochet, or whatever his name is, I'm not that interested, if I'm completely honest, just because the actual kind of villains, the Bone Carver and, the Weaver, that's kind of underwhelmed me. So I'm pretty sure that the Crochet is gonna go the same way. He's like this super big bad villain, but he's not gonna be a big bad villain. And it's the same with the King of Hybern. He's just stupid to me, and he's like a ridiculous villain to me. It was just super funny. I mean, I didn't take him seriously at all. So these villains in these books, they don't do it for me. And it's obvious that these books aren't that much about that. They're more about the romance, and the villains reflect that. So yeah,
true.
I just imagine them as cartoon villains, ho ho ho, I am the big villain, but not really, like that.
Yeah, we got no depth to Hybern. He was just like evil dude, and that's like all we got. So I agree with you there. I'm mostly hyped about Crochet because I've read so many fairy tales when I was a kid, like Slavic folk tales. So I read like a bunch of fairy tales where he was the villain. So I kind of like know the lore of Crochet. So now I want to know what Sarah does with it. Because like I know how to like, he's deathless, right? But like I know what his death is. So I want to know what's going to happen.
That's interesting. I don't know. I have never heard of Crochet, so I understand then why you're interested for sure. We'll see. I mean, I hope you won't be disappointed, I guess.
Yeah.
Forgive me if I'm skipping anything. Oh, actually, I am. I'm gonna address that actually. when they had like that battle at Summer Court, remember? That was interesting. I really loved how Feyre and Moore, they fought together. They, winnowed through that house together. And yeah, that was kind of cool to read. And it was like, I think it was Feyre's first experience with like actual war in that sense. But what, again, I didn't like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think Feyre and Rhysand apologized to Tarkin for like betraying him in a way. I don't think they actually gave him an apology, and I actually think they were rude at a certain point when kind of Tarkin, I think he raised his voice a little bit at Feyre or something, and Rhysand was like, "Don't speak like that to my high lady," and I'm like, okay, he has a bit of a right to, though, like, doesn't he? I mean, again, the stupid, like, just admit when your partner is wrong. Like, if my boyfriend did something wrong, I would be like, yeah, like, face the consequences a little bit there, nothing bad with that. So yeah, and then there was like a part where Feyre was in his house and she told someone to do something. I don't know if it was to Tarkin or to someone else that was in the room present. And then Tarkin went at her and he was like, "You don't give orders in my court," or something like that. And I was like, yeah, exactly, you don't. Again, it felt a bit self-presumptuous from Feyre to me. I just read her that way sometimes. I just can't help myself. I hate it. I want to love her, but I can't. I like her, but yeah, I'm not at the love point at all.
I see that. Yeah, I was just happy that they like made up with Summer Court because I was so sad in the last book that they like left in such shitty circumstances when in reality they were both kind of on the same page about like what they wanted their world to look like. So I was just happy they made up.
I mean, didn't make up right here. Actually, like Tarkin was still kind of, he still didn't really forgive and forget. That kind of happened at the meeting, at the Lord meeting, which we'll get to soon. I don't know. Like I said, there were so many things that I didn't like in this book that I kind of noticed a lot of the things that probably I wouldn't otherwise. If I liked the book in general, I think I wouldn't have noticed this or focused on it that much. But instead I did because I just nitpicked at points. So yeah, then I remember like they planned a lot for that whole meeting, which Nesta kind of like annoyed me a little bit because they wanted her to go with them so that she could like share her story too. So that everyone knew the danger that the cauldron represents, or well, the King of Hybern does. But she didn't want to like collaborate, and a part of me kind of understood not wanting to share that with a group of strangers, but at the same time, like, you want humans to, survive, and the King of Hybern, he wants to eliminate everyone. So like, why she just appeared to me again a little bit like everyone saying how strong she is, and again she appeared a bit not strong in my opinion. She didn't want to really stand up for what she believed in. She keeps telling us how she wants people to protect them and stuff, but she won't do shit about it. But I mean, eventually she did change her mind, so I was happy. I was happy that she went with them. And I remember her and Cassian had a little bit of a moment before they winnowed to the Dawn Court. Was the meeting in the Dawn Court or the Day Court?
Fantastic.
I mean, in one
question,
of those
right?
courts. One of those courts, okay? The D Court. So yeah, they winnowed there. Another thing that I found to be a little bit, I don't know, kind of cute, but unrealistic. I don't know. When Moore and her friend, Vivian, when they reunited and they had this like college girl banter going on there, like they were at a frat party or something, like they weren't at a meeting where they're gonna literally discuss war. This whole meeting in general actually was very childish, just in general. And I blame Sarah J. Maas for that, but fine. Like, the floor is yours.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that meeting. I am still pissed off about this meeting. Basically, almost every aspect of this meeting that could have pissed me off. Yeah, like, sure, these two acted like drunk girls meeting each other for the first time in the bathroom, just like screaming over each other. For sure, inappropriate for this sort of meeting, but that's like probably the least long list of immature, inappropriate behavior from hundreds, if not 1,000-year-old leaders of courts who are facing war and death and destruction and are trying to come together for a solution. Oh my God. I mean, that the person I am most irritated by in this meeting is Tamlin, because the way that he acted was just awful, was horrible. Like, could you imagine if we as like members of planet Earth, like send our most powerful leaders to like a meeting because like I don't know, like aliens were going to attack us at any moment. So we like need the most powerful and smart leaders to organize what we're going to do about those aliens. And then like one of the leaders like got an invitation, didn't accept it. The meeting is ongoing, and then like 45 minutes in, that dude just like kicks the door open with his foot and like goes, "Hey, fuck all of you, but especially you, leader of Liechtenstein, for stealing my girlfriend. None of this would have happened if you didn't steal my girlfriend. Yes, I am working with aliens, but you know why I'm working? It's because of you. Because my slut girlfriend went with you, and I don't need her anymore because she's sleeping around." Yeah, that's what I said. And you know what? You, leader of Liechtenstein, also sleep around. You would love to sleep with those aliens because you're evil and you love sleeping with evil people. I know that. And then everyone would just be like, "Where's security? We're kicking this guy out." That's literally what happened.
I'm dying.
We're supposed to
Oh my
take it
god.
seriously. I cannot.
Oh my god. I was so disappointed by this whole meeting. I mean, again, it's like Sarah J. Maas wanted the freaking drama, and she just took advantage of that, and she just pooped all over it, like literally. And I was like, this isn't what I wanted. Like, I want a drama. I want drama. I like fighting and everything, but I also need a little bit of seriousness for me to take the whole plot seriously. Like, I need a little bit of it, I mean, geez Louise, it's like my thoughts are all over the place right now. What Tamlin did, that was so horrible and stupid and everything. And also, in regards like to the Night Court, it was also so funny because they went there with the intention of finally showing who they were, like that they're guys and everything. And partially they kind of did. I mean, Rhys told them, his whole plan, that he wasn't actually being evil, that he hid Valaris for protecting it and stuff, which was nice. But it was just, again, all like talk. But showing them that they're good, that wasn't the case because Asriel completely lost his temper and attacked Aerys. Yeah. And I'm not saying that Aerys doesn't deserve it, but like show some restraint in moments like this. Like, he's supposedly the calm and quiet one, and yet he can show restraint in moments that matter. Then Feyre, of course, like lost her shit too, which, okay, fine, I understand, but like, again, not the place and time. And I understand like if she has to lose her shit and maybe like use the shadows, Rhys's power, but instead, of course, she had to use all of her powers so that everyone realized that she kind of, borrowed them or took them or whatever. Well, they gave them to her, but still, I mean, again, for the plot's sake, and yeah, it was just tiring to read that. A part of me kind of ate it up, but a part of me was like, where's the serious, like, strategizing? Where are the plans? Where's the mature conversation? And I also felt like this was a good time for Sarah J. Maas to sit Tamlin, Feyre, and Rhys down and just talk as adults. It was a good chance for her to give them that decency, all of them. And she used it for drama. She used it to poop all over them. I did not appreciate that because later on in the book, we kind of see a bit of a redemption from Tamlin. He does save Feyre, Asriel, that human girl, and Elain. When they, infiltrate the camp, he basically blows his cover to save them. So that was really cool. And then he saves Rhysand's life and he tells Feyre to be happy. What I'm trying to say here is that we get from Sarah that she's trying to redeem him a little bit and that she's trying to push him in a different direction. So if you're planning to do that at the end of the book, why not take this as like an opening to maybe give us a hint of that? Like show us a little bit that Tamlin is maybe changing a little bit or like is finally seeing things differently or something. I kind of understand that he went off because he didn't really have a chance to just discuss things. So when he saw Feyre, I think he just exploded again. But still, like, at least after he told her all the awful things that he did, at least give us then something from him that then, is equal to what he does later in the book when he literally sacrifices himself in a way to help her. It was a good chance, what I'm trying to say. And Sarah didn't use it. She just created more drama for the sake of drama. Literally.
Yeah.
Because not what did it achieve, really?
It made me hate Tamlin some more. Like, that's it.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like she wants to vilify Tamlin as much as possible. And like I said, I really do strongly believe that we will get his point of view. But I think at the time when we get it, a lot of people are not gonna... there's a point where you can't come back from. I'm at the point where I don't hate Tamlin, but I know a lot of people do, and they have good reason to hate him. Like, I don't agree with them, but I understand in a way. And they won't come back from that. And when his story comes, I don't know how Sarah's gonna spin it and if they'll want to read it, But yeah, okay, whatever. It's stupid meaning.
Definitely, yeah. Like, that was the moment where I just truly hated Tamlin the most, because he was like trying to hit where it hurts and hurt them as much as possible. And like, how was I supposed to like believe that this character is actually like cleverly trying to like double cross Hybern if that's like the level of maturity he's showing me? Like, of course, like I had like no hope. So that was just...
Yeah, like, again, Feyre also said something to Moore in a moment of emotional distraught deflection.
And I also don't like that.
Exactly, yeah. I don't like this from Tamlin either. But again, I can kind of understand, since they didn't have a proper conversation at all. And I just wished that they would have had that here, like maybe, but no, they didn't. I'm not sure if we should discuss more sleeping with Helion and all of that. I don't think so. I mean, Helion's another like character that I wasn't that into. He walked into that room like he was a frat boy, and of course he just puts on a face of being an evil guy, but he's actually a good guy. How many of these plot twists that aren't really plot twists are we gonna get? Like, it's not interesting to me, again, like to read the same thing over and over again. So that wasn't interesting to me at all. It was interesting to think that he might be, that he is, I think, Lucian's father. That was kind of cool.
Interesting revelation, for sure. But then for the remainder of the book, each time that we got Feyre glancing at Lucian for whatever reason, we then got a sentence like, but of course, his father is not his real father. What's going to happen when he finds out? We shall see. And like, is it that big of a deal though? Like, I'm not as emotionally invested in this revelation as Sarah J. Maas believes I am. Like, okay.
Again, it's fine. You revealed it, like maybe repeat it again, like later on in the book again, but like don't repeat it so many times, again, with the same problem that we've discussed before. It's like not even worth diving deeper into that. Anyways, then we also have the situation when Elain gets kidnapped. They went to go to rescue her. And we tackled how Tamlin, like saved them there. Jurian, we never talked about Jurian. Like, I think this is the first time I'm mentioning him.
Yeah.
But I think Jurian was kind of interesting, and that was, oh my gosh, that's another stupid plot thing that I hate. Oh my gosh, so hear me out. Everyone, I don't know why, when they realized that Jurian was going to be resurrected, they all were like, oh my gosh, that's awful, I mean, Jurian fought with them against Hybern. Why would you think now that he is going to side with Hybern? And when Jurian revealed that he is on their side, again, I was not surprised. I was like, this makes complete sense. How have none of you thought of that earlier? Like, it's like no one thinks deeper. It's the same for Tamlin. Like, I know, just if we don't think about him being Tamlin, just like this guy who, he's just a person who we know is against slavery, has no problems with humans. Why just not give him a benefit of the doubt that maybe he has a plan? And it's the same with Jurian. He fought against Hybern and he's a human. He's essentially a human himself. Why would you think he would side with Hybern and help him?
Well, he was trapped in a ring for 500 years and like forced to witness atrocities. So I did think it would be realistic if he had lost his mind in all that time. Like that sort of existence would have fucked anyone up. And then it would probably be easy to manipulate with someone who, right, was tortured basically for hundreds of years. So
I don't know. I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. I mean, even if he lost his mind, I don't find it to be believable that he would help. And like, even if that were the case, like, why no one even thought of it, of the possibility? Again, is it? I don't
that's
understand.
because he wanted to take the revenge, right? Because he had a lover and she chose someone else, right? So they believe
Again,
that
not
he was
strong enough for me.
right. But for others, maybe like everything in this world is about like love, right? So they would believe that someone would betray everything for love.
I mean, yeah, okay, you can spin it that way. Okay, that's fair enough. But like, just personally, from my perspective, yeah, it wasn't a big reveal, like, at all. I wasn't shocked. I just rolled my eyes at that point. It didn't make much logical sense. So yeah, so anyways, she went to that camp and Jurian helped her. She was disguised as Ianti and they saved Elain and this other human girl. Oh, another thing that, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm just complaining here, but okay, fine. This is a complaining episode. Anyways, Asriel saved the human girl. He was the one that took her. And it's like, she took the credit for it. She took the credit for saving Elain and for saving that girl. But Asriel was the one that actually saved them. And I don't know, that was kind of funny to me. And it's the same with like Nesta and Elain. Elain was the one who stabbed the King of Hybern at the end. And everyone's like, Nesta killed him. And I'm like, no, Elain did. I mean, I know he wasn't dead when she stabbed him, but he would have been. Nesta just kind of like pushed him up over the edge. So that was so weird to me too. Oh, I don't know. Anyways, I was happy when finally Tamlin saved them.
Okay, yeah, like finally we got some sort of progression from that. So yeah, that was the point where
Hallelujah.
Probably hated him a bit less, but
I mean, like, I feel like he didn't have to. You know, he was there, a spy essentially. He was pretending to be, you know, he could have gotten more intelligence and instead he kind of sacrificed that to help them. And he didn't have to do that, especially since he had a lot of mixed emotions towards all of them at that point. And he still did it. So I respected the hell out of that, actually. Then the war happened, the battle thing, and we talked a little bit about the monsters dying, how underwhelming that was for us. Then, like, Rhysand had this pretty speech, which also didn't really feel like a motivational speech. It felt like a goodbye. So that was interesting, an interesting way to hype everyone up. But it was still pretty, it was still cute. I won't nitpick that too much. And then, yeah, the war was kind of weird. I mean, I remember that one time when their father came to save them, and that was just so out of left field. I was, what the hell? Like, at least mention him a little bit more in the books so that this isn't so, you know, out of nowhere. And we were supposed to feel, what, emotionally attached? I mean, I still felt it was cute. I liked the fact that he named the ships after them. That was really nice. I did like that. But yeah, other than that, it was just so weird.
Yeah, I do feel like there was so much potential in this battle that was kind of lost, and I did not feel like I usually feel when I read battle scenes, like completely like in it and feeling like all the action and like not able to put the book down. Here, I felt sort of bored throughout the whole thing. I felt like, you know, we have them like winning a little bit and then they were struggling a little bit and like, oh my gosh, could you believe like another plot twist is happening where like more people are joining in to help? And then it just happened over and over and over again. And at the end, I was just like not that invested in the whole thing. And with their father coming in to rescue them, that was another weakness from one point of view. If you think about it, how interesting it would have been to see Lucian's adventures in the human world. Like, he met up with Vasa, that human queen, he met up with their father, like, they got all those armies together. Like, we could have, like, at least gotten some letters from him or something, because that's such an interesting storyline that we just, like, got, like, plopped in the end, and then we're supposed to just go with it. And with their father, that was also like a wasted moment where we're supposed to be emotionally attached to this character. We were supposed to like react emotionally to this moment. But like this character was absent for the majority of the books. And from what we've known about him from the start, he was kind of bad at being a father. Like we didn't like get to be attached to him because like he was not actually that good at parenting. And then, you know, he left for a while and then he is back and then we're like, okay, like cool, you brought in some ships. Oh yeah, you're dying. Like it was not an emotional sort of release for me because I was not like attached to this character at this point. I can see that for Feyre, Elain, and Nesta, it would be emotional, but it was such a fail to like not make it emotional for the readers as well because we didn't get to really feel that connection as deep as those characters did.
Yep, that's true. I mean, I personally, when he died, I was very sad. I cried because, like, when it comes to parents in books and TV shows, I get very sad very easily. And when it comes to animals and stuff like that, so this is just like a weak point for me in general. So I did cry, and it like the idea was sad that, you know, he spent his entire life as this villain in Nesta's eyes, for example. And for her, you know, when you think about her, it's like she always saw him this certain way and she was mean to him because of it. And you don't entirely blame her. But now she finds out that he went and he essentially helped save them in a sense. And she will never get a chance to discover that other side of him. You know, she'll never have another moment with him to understand. And that's what made me sad. You know, just the idea and the potential that she lost when he died, I suppose, of more moments that she could have had with him. And not just her, but Elain and, you know, Feyre too. They will never know the side of him, sadly. And I'm glad they kind of left with this thought of him, like him saving them at least. So it was a positive note to die on, I suppose. And he tried to, you know, he died basically, essentially, because he got angry when the King of Hybern threatened them. So for me, it was emotional, but just the whole entrance part, you know, I wish we could give credit to Lucien. You know, he went and he tried to help them, and then the whole credit went to their father, who was out of the picture most of the time. It was just kind of weird. And also, like, let's talk about plot. I mean, when Feyre touched the cauldron and she was magically, you know, transported to Nesta and across the whole battlefield, because that makes sense. I mean, I wish we just had more points of views that would make more sense. And oh my gosh, again, like the whole thing that Amren supposedly died and then Rhys died, completely unnecessary. Rhysand's death was completely unnecessary. When I read and he was dead, I was like, no, he wasn't, okay? No, he wasn't. I mean, he's not dead. This is like not happening. And at least Amren should have stayed dead. I'm glad Rhysand didn't, but like Amren, I mean, I don't want Amren to die, but we need casualties. We need like consequences. See, there's no consequences in this book, not to people's actions, like the main characters at least, and not to battles either, it seems.
Yeah, no one besides their father was actually killed. And because we haven't gotten to know him at this point, it wasn't like as emotional as it would have been if someone from the inner circle died. And like sometimes you do need that emotional sort of release in the end to like really make the stakes matter, to make it all like mean something. Like it's not like a cheer and wish for like all the main characters to die for shock value. Like that's not what I'm saying. However, when all the characters have like plot armor and you're already like, no, nothing bad is going to happen to them because the author like really wants to protect them all, like that also is then not as exciting because you already know like nothing bad is going to happen. So it's not as exciting as when there is that possibility, right?
Exactly. And I actually did think that Amren was going to stay dead. So when she got back, I just rolled my eyes again, and the only difference was supposedly that she was now human. No, not human. High Fae. She wasn't like a god or whatever anymore. And yeah, I was like, okay, well, why? Why did she have to come back different? What's the point of that again? Shock value again? Now she's just normal. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with normal, but whatever. I don't know. I didn't care much. Like you said previously, this whole battle scene was underwhelming. This whole war was underwhelming. It was very hyped, but it didn't amount to much. And then after the battle, they have like a meeting of humans and Fae, and they want to discuss new terms of how they're gonna cooperate now and stuff, which is a good thing, that should be discussed. But again, like whatever. And then I also didn't care much for Vasa, the human queen, the Firebird story, Phoenix story or whatever she is.
Yeah.
I also wasn't intrigued by that at all. It was just weird.
That was also a lost potential there. Like, as I said, we could have gotten whole chapters about Lucian going to the human world, and maybe we could have met that queen that way and have seen, like, why was she cursed, like, what her life is like. And that, I believe I could have been, like, really interested in her as a character if it wasn't just like, oh, there she is, bye, and that's all we got. So
yeah,
that was disappointing.
And the same for I forgot their names, but the guy, Jurian was in love with this girl, and then she ran away off, and that couple, the ones that also came to help from the island, also wasn't invested in that, and I found it absurd when they got there, and there was a moment in battle when Nesta, Cassian, Feyre, and Rhys, and these two were flying. They were flying, and they were just talking. And people were dying all around. There was a battle, and they literally talked for 5 pages.
Oh, yeah.
Fine, just a little recap, but like, come on, people are dying. Move along, It just didn't make sense to me at all. It was so weird. So I think the book concluded when Feyre and Rhysand, they were like on the balcony, and they made a very stupid bargain. Should we mention it now? It is from this book. They did do it here, so we should, right?
Yeah.
They basically tie their lives together, and if one dies, the other one dies too. Which, honestly, when I read this, I didn't think much of it. I was like, I didn't understand that this was an actual bargain. Like the tattooed one. I thought this was just like a cute little conversation, like romantic. I didn't think much of it, but it's an actual bargain, people, if you missed that.
Oh, yeah. I did read it, and I was just like, oh, these two are getting even more cheesy than usual. And I did not think about further than that. And then, like you brought up the fact, like, just how stupid it is to be later. And I was like, oh, right. That is stupid here, right?
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Romantic fools. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay.
I also have one thing that
Of course.
I forgot to mention. To our point regarding how Feyre and Rhysand just do things without like really having consequences. I've already ranted about the whole Mor and Feyre fight situation. But then after, we got more apologizing to Feyre, we got Feyre sort of figuring out that, oh no, maybe it's a bad idea to run off and do something dangerous without checking in with anybody, since I'm a high lady and they're my court and I also could be in danger. Cool, we got that. Let's not do it again. Except 2 chapters later, she goes and seeks out Ouroboros on her own without telling anybody. Again. Oh my god.
Yeah.
She doesn't learn.
Yeah, she doesn't. That's why it sometimes really didn't feel like I was getting any growth from her. There was no like progression. I don't know. And then we get the Ouroboros part, and supposedly she's learned, she's accepted, and she's kind of forgiven herself, which is all cute and nice and good. But like, I wish we actually got the experience so that we could feel that way too, like she did, And instead, Sarah just decided to not give us that perspective at all. And it was such a waste. So I don't know. I'm just so confused with Sarah J. Maas's, choices in this whole series. Sometimes they don't make sense. But yeah, this book frustrated me all in all. But I mentioned that at the beginning of the episode.
And all in all, despite how much I read it over here, I had a nice time reading it, so I'm not that mad at the whole book. I had a nice time with it. Of course, there's things that piss me off, but also there's 10% battery left on my MacBook, so I do believe it's time to wrap up.
To wrap it up. Yep. But yeah, I still read it, and I still continued the series because there are still characters that I like and that I want to hear more about. And the next episode we'll be talking about them. And I'm super excited for those. I mean, we're not going to make an episode for the novella, just for the novella. We're going to do A Court of Silver Flames. And we're also going to mention in that episode a little bit of what happened in the novella, the things that I feel like maybe resonated with us. So that's it. Thank you guys for listening to our conversation. Hopefully it was interesting to you guys. And yeah, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok. And please subscribe wherever you're listening. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.